Daniel Brooks walked through the dusty streets of Keter Prime in silence. The sky glowed red above the tall towers of the Galactic Empire. Soldiers in black armor patrolled the square. Daniel kept his gaze low. He remembered life on Earth where people smiled under blue skies. Here, he felt the weight of fear and empty stares. He reached the mining camp at the edge of the city. Smoke rose from the furnaces where workers chipped at stone. Maria Torres waited by the entrance. She wore a simple white coat and carried a small medical kit. Her dark hair was pulled back in a neat braid. Maria looked at Daniel with relief. "You came back?" she said softly. Daniel nodded. His uniform was dusty and torn at the shoulder. He had led the patrol that afternoon. They had seen families forced from their homes by the Empire's tax. Collectors' children clung to their parents' legs. Daniel could not forget the crying little boy who lost his toy. Maria opened the door to the camp's infirmary. Inside, the air smelled of antiseptic and sweat. A few wounded miners lay on metal beds. One man had a broken arm from a falling rock. Another had deep cuts from a guard's riot baton. Maria moved from one patient to another. She cleaned wounds, gave water, and whispered words of comfort. Daniel watched her work. He felt anger rise inside him. The Empire had no care for these people. They only cared for credits and control. Daniel remembered his commanding officer's words, "Obey orders without question." He had tried to obey. But when he saw Maria's gentle hands, he knew he could not keep quiet. Maria finished treating the last patient. She looked at Daniel. "I have news," she said. Daniel waited. He braced himself. "There is a small group that meets in secret," Maria said. "They are miners and traders who hate the Empire. They want to fight back." Daniel's heart pounded. He had dreamed of defiance, but the Empire's reach was far. He recalled the stories of rebels on distant planets. Most had failed. But these people spoke of using scrap metal to build simple weapons. They spoke of hope. "I will take you to them tonight," Maria added. Daniel hesitated. Fear and excitement mixed inside him. He could stay safe in his bunker. He could keep following orders. Or he could step into danger and stand against the tyrant. Night came fast on Keter Prime. The red sky darkened to a deep maroon. Daniel joined Maria as she led him through back alleys. The patrol slowed after dusk, but patrol towers still scanned the streets. They reached a closed warehouse at the edge of the camp. A small light shone through a high window. Maria tapped a sequence on the heavy door. It clicked open. Inside, miners and traders crowded around a metal table. A dim lamp cast long shadows. A tall man with a thick beard stood at the table. He was the leader, Elias Wright. Next to him stood a young woman, Lavra Shun, who studied star maps. A burly man named Leo Grant handled a pile of metal scraps. Maria opened her coat and showed a rebel pin. Daniel did the same. Elias nodded and stepped forward. "Welcome," Elias said. His voice was rough but kind. "We have little time. The Empire will soon send more troops. We must act fast." He tapped the map on the table. "Here is the supply convoy route. It runs along the canyon road at dawn. It carries weapons and armor. If we strike there, we can seize what we need." Lavra pointed at a narrow path. "This canyon offers cover. We place charges to block the rear guard. Then we can ambush the convoy." Daniel touched the map. He felt a spark of purpose. "I can lead the attack on the front," he said. Elias looked at Maria. She nodded. "He has military training. He knows patrol tactics." Daniel studied the faces around the table. They saw hope flicker in his eyes. "All right," Elias said. "We move at first light." Outside, the wind carried the echo of distant turbines. Daniel breathed in the cold night air. He felt his heart race. The weight of fear was still on his shoulders. But now it had a purpose. Maria placed a hand on his arm. "Thank you," she whispered. Daniel smiled at her. It was the first honest smile he had given in weeks. He spent the rest of the night preparing. He learned names and faces. Leo showed him how to rig the charges. Lavra taught him the terrain. Maria helped him pack medical supplies. Daniel found a moment alone. He closed his eyes and thought of Earth. He thought of green forests and gentle rain. He thought of a promise. One human soldier could stand against the Galactic Tyrant. As dawn approached, Daniel tightened his boots and checked his rifle. The rebel band formed in the canyon entrance. He saw rough faces, hands scarred by mining work, eyes bright with determination. Daniel raised his hand. "For freedom," he said quietly. They nodded and moved into the canyon. Daniel led the way, heart strong. The Empire would not see them coming. Before dawn, Daniel Brooks crouched in the shadows of the canyon. Maria Torres stood beside him, holding a small lantern. The other rebels waited silently. Elias Wright, Leo Grant, Lavra Bennett, and a new ally, Eric Johnson. The air was cold. And still, Daniel checked his rifle. The convoy would pass soon. He glanced at Lavra. She pointed to the ridge above. Small charges lay like stones along the narrow path. Leo knelt and tested the final device. It gave a soft click. "All were ready, at my signal," Daniel whispered. "Elias, you block the rear. Leo and Eric, disable the guards up front. Lavra and Maria, help civilians escape to the ridge. I will target the supply wagons." Each rebel nodded. They held their breath as the first engines roared in the distance. Imperial trucks rumbled along the rocky road. Armed guards sat atop the vehicles, scanning the cliffs. Daniel's heart pounded. He felt sweat despite the cold. The convoy drew closer. Maria gripped his arm. "We can do this," she said softly. Daniel forced a calm breath. "Remember Earth," he whispered. "We fight for free skies." The trucks passed under the ridge. Daniel slotted a round into his rifle. He raised a hand. "Now!" Leo pressed a detonator. A roar shook the canyon. The rear guard trucks lurched and blocked the road. Metal and dust flew. The convoy driver shouted orders. Eric and Leo leapt forward. They charged the laid truck. Leo swung a heavy metal bar and smashed the guard's rifle. Eric tackled the other driver to the ground. Their blows were quick and fierce. Daniel stepped into view. He aimed at the supply wagons. Guards leapt down and raised rifles. Daniel fired, his shots precise. Each hit caused a thud as guards fell. Smoke curled from the wagons. Maria and Lavra moved among the frightened civilians. Small families huddled as workers ran. Maria lifted a crying child. Lavra guided them to a hidden path up the ridge. A guard in black armor saw Maria. He aimed. At her, Daniel saw the movement. He raised his rifle and fired. The guard staggered and dropped his weapon. Maria froze, then ran up the path. Daniel raced after her, then stopped at the wagons. The firing slowed. Only a few guards remained standing. Eric yanked open a wagon door. Inside, several crates of rifles lay neatly packed. "We got them." Eric called. Daniel grabbed a crate. He hefted it and looked at Maria on the ridge. She waved. "Hurry." Daniel and Eric loaded rifles and ammunition onto their backs. Leo and Elias knocked out the last guards. The convoy was silent but for groans and distant alarms. They ran to the narrow path. Daniel strained with the weight. Dust rose under their boots. Behind them, more explosions echoed as rebel demolitions blocked other routes. At the ridge, the civilians watched from above. Maria guided each woman and child along a hidden trail. The rebels helped them up. Daniel reached the top first. He set down the crate. His chest heaved. He looked back at the canyon below. The convoy lay wrecked. Thin smoke rose from the trucks. "We did it," Maria said, handing Daniel a canteen. He drank deeply. The water was cold and sweet. He felt a surge of hope. Elias joined them, wiping sweat. "The Empire will send reinforcements," he said. Lavra checked her watch. "We have only minutes before they call air support." Daniel stood tall. He felt the weight of the rifles on his back. "We fight again, then we leave." "We cannot risk the civilians." Leo and Eric gathered the crates. They nodded. Each rebel knew the cost, but they also knew the prize. Daniel looked at Maria. "Let us lead them to safety." They formed a line. The civilians followed behind. Daniel led them through a hidden pass. Lavra covered the rear. Behind them, a distant roar of turbojets warned. of Imperial ships. The pass narrowed, rocks hung overhead. Daniel paused. He looked back one last time at the canyon. It was a place of fire and death now. He turned forward. "Keep moving," he urged. They pressed on, Maria close at his side. Each step took them farther from danger. Each step carried hope for freedom. When they reached a hidden valley, the rebels lowered their weapons. The refugees lay on soft grass. Children laughed quietly. Mothers smiled with relief. Elias set down the last crate. He opened it. The rifles glinted in the pale light. "These will arm our friends," Elias said. Daniel felt pride swell. He had stood against the Empire. He had led his team to victory. But the war was not over. Above them, the sky shifted from red to pale orange. A new day began on Keter Prime 1 that, for the first time in years, felt like a day of hope. After the raid, word of victory spread across Keter Prime. Small mining outposts heard the news and dared to speak of freedom. Daniel Brooks watched as rumors grew into hope. He stood with Maria Torres on a rocky hill overlooking the valley where rebels had gathered. "We cannot stay here forever," Daniel said. "The Empire will send ships to crush the rebels." Maria nodded. "We need more allies. I heard there is a hidden colony on the moon of Evra. They hate the Empire too." "Then we go there," Daniel said. They gathered the rebel leaders, Elias Wright, Leo Grant, LeVar Bennett, and Eric Johnson. Under a dark sky, they planned their next move. Lavra spread star charts on a flat stone. "Evra lies here," she pointed. "Kevin Scott can pilot a small transport. He will take us through the patrol lanes." "I will guide him," Maria sighed. "I served on Evra once as a student. I know a secret landing site." Daniel felt hope rise. They needed fighters and supplies. Evra might provide both. The next night, the rebels assembled near the hidden hangar. Kevin Scott, a former transport pilot, fueled a small ship named Freedom. Daniel climbed aboard. Maria joined him in the cockpit. The others loaded crates of rifles and tools. Kevin started the engines. The ship lifted quietly into the red sky. It slipped through patrol beacons and avoided detection. Daniel watched the lights of Keter Prime shrink below. After an hour, Evra came into view. It was a pale blue moon with dark forests and silver cities. Maria guided Kevin to a clearing under thick trees. The ship touched down softly among ferns and rocks. They exited the ship. Strange night birds called overhead. Daniel breathed in fresh air. It reminded him of Earth. "Welcome home," Maria whispered. They made their way on foot to the nearest settlement. Small houses with thatched roofs rose along a winding path. Lanterns glowed behind frosted windows. A guard in faded green uniform held a rifle. He stopped them. "Name and business?" The guard asked. "I am Maria Torres," she said calmly. "We are friends seeking aid against the Empire." The guard studied her face. He lowered his rifle. "You served here, Doctor?" "Torres," Maria bowed her head. "Yes, and this is Daniel Brooks and our allies." She gestured. The rebel leaders stepped forward. A whistle blew. A crowd gathered behind the guard. Daniel saw old friends of Maria and new faces eager for action. An older man emerged. He held a metal staff with a glowing crystal. His hair was silver and his eyes fierce. "I am Marcus Hall," he said. "Evra stands with the righteous. You have my sword and my people." Daniel felt emotion rise. The colony offered fighters, weapons, and ships. "We leave tonight," Marcus said. "We strike the Empire's outpost on Keter Prime, then we march on the capital station." Daniel and the leaders thanked Marcus. The people cheered. At dusk, Freedom lifted again. Behind them, Evra's lights faded. Ahead lay Keter Prime and the heart of the Empire. Daniel gripped his rifle. He felt fear and excitement. Above the planet, Kevin set a course for a hidden docking port near the capital station. Daniel and Maria worked at the map table. Lavra checked her scanners. Eric and Leo loaded supplies into landing shuttles. "We split into 2 teams," Daniel said. "Team Alpha will storm the outpost on Keter Prime. Team Beta will blockade the supply routes. Then we meet at the station." Elias tapped his watch. "We have little time. The Imperial patrols grow stronger." They boarded the shuttles. Daniel led Team Alpha. Maria stayed with him. Others took Beta. The outpost lay on a barren plain. A tall spire cast a long shadow. Lights blinked as guards patrolled the walls. Daniel signaled. The shuttles dropped their teams near the perimeter. Lavra laid small charges at the security gates. Leo and Eric took cover behind rocks. Daniel and Elias crept forward. They reached a guard tower. 2 sentries stood below. "On me," Daniel whispered. He swung his rifle butt. The first guard fell with a groan. Elias knocked the other unconscious. They moved inside. Corridors stretched like a maze. Daniel's heart pounded. He thought of the miners and families whose homes lay under imperial rule. He thought of Maria's gentle hands. He thought of Earth. In the central hall, guards gathered around a control console. Daniel raised his rifle. He squeezed the trigger. The guards dropped their weapons and fell. Alarms screamed. "Charges set!" Laura's voice crackled in Daniel's ear. Daniel saw her through a doorway. She held a detonator. He nodded. "Now," he said. The charges exploded. Walls shook. Dust filled the air. Guards stumbled in confusion. Daniel and Elias pressed forward and seized crates of power cells and small rockets. Then they fled the outpost. Behind them, fire and smoke rose. The reinforcements never came in time. The shuttles returned. Team Beta diverted a supply convoy nearby. They captured food and medical supplies. Then they raced to the landing zone. Team Alpha landed first. Daniel jumped out, holding the crates. He saw victory in Maria's eyes. "We did good," she said. Daniel nodded. "This will help many people." Kevin signaled from Freedom. "All aboard." We moved to the station. They loaded the crates and fighters. The shuttles docked. Daniel climbed into the cockpit behind Kevin. "Next stop, the capital station," Daniel said. The engines roared. They broke through the atmosphere. Ahead lay the glittering station, a place of power and cruelty. Daniel looked at the stars. He felt fear, but also a fierce purpose. He was a single human soldier, but now he carried the hopes of many worlds. And he would not fail. The Freedom approached the capital station in silence. Its metal walls glowed under distant stars. Inside the cockpit, Daniel Brooks sat beside Maria Torres. Kevin Scott piloted with steady hands. The station was a city in space, ringed with landing bays and defense turrets. Daniel felt a chill as they passed under the station's docking platform. "We dock here," Kevin said. "This bay is rarely used. Maintenance crews come through, but patrols are light." Daniel studied the map. He marked the power core location. That was their goal: disable the station's main weapon arrays and cut communications. Without those, the Empire's fleets could not coordinate. "Brain, rest of team," Daniel said into his comlink. "Elias, Leo, Lava, Eric, listen up. We go in 2 groups. Team 1 will head to the power core. Team 2 will split and jam comes on each ring. Maria stays with me. We lead Team 1. "Understood," Elias replied. His voice was calm. "Good luck," Lavra added. "We will meet you in the control deck." Daniel and Maria moved toward the airlock. They wore light armor and carried rifles and charge packs. The airlock cycled quietly. A hiss of pressure. Then the door opened. They stepped into a narrow corridor lined with pipes and cables. "Stay close," Daniel said. They advanced. Lights flickered overhead. Maria checked her scanner. "Patrol ahead," she whispered. 2 guards walked past. Daniel held his breath. He aimed at the first guard's leg. Maria did the same. They fired simultaneously. The guards fell with soft groans. Daniel and Maria moved quickly to drag them into a maintenance closet. Daniel sealed the door. "Clear." They continued down the corridor. The walls hummed with power. Ahead, a bulkhead door marked power core access. Daniel placed a small charge on the panel lock. He pressed detonate. The panel sparked, then opened. Maria plugged a data spike into the console. Numbers scrolled across the screen. "I am in," she said. Daniel watched the corridor. A patrol passed by the window. Maria kept her eyes on the console. "Uploading." "Virus," she whispered. 2 minutes to full access. Daniel checked his rifle. "We hold." The hallway filled with footsteps. Daniel fired low shots. Guards fell one by one. Maria worked quickly at the console. Sparks flew as the data spike glowed red. "Done," Maria said. "The core will shut down in 30 seconds, an alarm blared. Red lights flashed. Daniel grabbed Maria's arm. "Move!" They ran through. The open panel. Behind them, the core's hum slowed and died. The station trembled. Sparks shot from broken circuits. Above, artillery turrets powered down. Communications dishes went silent. The station was dark for a moment, then emergency lights flickered on. Daniel signaled Team 2. "Core is down. Proceed to control deck." They ran through twisting corridors. At each intersection, they blocked doors with charge packs. Small explosions sealed off patrols behind them. Laura's voice crackled. "We have comms locked. No transmission in or out." Daniel allowed himself a brief smile. "Good work. See you at the control deck?" Maria and Daniel reached a large elevator. The call button glowed. Daniel pressed it. The doors opened with a hiss. They boarded. The doors closed. They rose toward the station's nerve center. The elevator stopped. Doors opened to a wide hall. Tall windows looked out on the planet below. At the far end sat the control deck. High-ranking officers in blue uniforms shouted into consoles trying to restore systems. Daniel and Maria crouched behind a stack of crates. Maria checked her scanner. 15 guards patrol here." Daniel nodded. "We will hit them fast." Maria pulled a slender device from her pack. "This is an ion emitter. It will disable electronics for 10 seconds. Enough to knock out turrets and shields." Daniel gripped his rifle. "Ready?" he whispered. "Ready," Maria said. Daniel stood. Maria activated the emitter. A pulse of blue light shot across the room. Consoles died. Guards' rifles clicked. Daniel and Maria charged. Daniel fired at the nearest guards. Maria moved to the central console. She inserted another spike and began a full system wipe. Guards fell around Daniel. He moved like lightning, clear shots and steady breathing. He felt the weight of his training and the hope of every rebel. Maria's fingers flew. The console read, "System purge 90%. Lavra and Eric burst through a side door. They joined the fight. Leo and Elias followed, blocking the exit. We do not leave until the station is ours." Elias said. Daniel looked at Maria's screen. "Complete." The console lit up. "All systems offline. Manual override required." Maria removed her. "Spike. They cannot call for backup now." Daniel surveyed the stunned officers. He had no wish to kill them. "We take them prisoner," he said. He raised his rifle. The officers froze. Daniel marched to the central chair. He pulled down a holographic display of the Empire's fleets. "This station belongs to the people now," he said. Maria cuffed the nearest officer. Elias and Lavra rounded up guards. Eric secured the entry door. Leo checked the corridors. Daniel stood tall. He looked out the window at the world below, bathed in soft light. The station would no longer bring fear. Maria approached. "What next?" she asked. Daniel sheathed his rifle. "We free the prisoners in the holding cells, then we send a broadcast. Let every world know the tyrant has fallen." Maria smiled. "Let us get to work." Daniel nodded. Together they moved toward the holding cells. The station was theirs. The Empire's cruelty had no power here, and a single human soldier had shown where courage could lead. The shuttles docked at the station's service bay. Daniel Brooks stepped onto the metal floor, rifle ready. Maria Torres and the rebel fighters followed close. The bay was wide and dim, with pipes along the ceiling. Maintenance robots stood. "Silent. Stay close," Daniel whispered. They advanced toward a maintenance hatch at the far end. Leo Grant and Eric Johnson set charges on the heavy door. Lavra Bennett scanned the corridor behind. "Clear for breach," she said. Daniel nodded. Leo detonated the charges. The door swung open. They entered a long corridor lined with service tunnels. The station trembled as distant thrusters fired. "The control deck is above," Maria said. "We need the central elevator." They moved swiftly, using side passages. Guards came around a corner. Daniel raised his rifle. He fired 2. Quick shots. Both guards fell. Maria checked them and motioned forward. At the junction, they found stairs to the elevator. Daniel opened a service panel and inserted a spike. The elevator hummed and came to life. The doors slid open. Go, Daniel said. They boarded. The cabin rose. Maria held the spike. The station core is safe, but the crew tries to restart systems. We stopped them here, Daniel said. The elevator doors opened to a central hub. Officers in white uniforms panicked as emergency lights flashed. A half-dozen soldiers formed a line. Stand down! An officer shouted. Daniel frowned. We take no prisoners here, he charged. Maria covered his flank. Bullets flew. Daniel moved between crates and consoles. He fired with precision. Maria's spike disabled a guard's rifle. Leo and Eric flanked the soldiers. In seconds. The hallway was silent. Daniel fired a final round into a panel. Sparks flew from the ceiling. Maria wiped sweat. They cannot restart weapons now, Daniel nodded. Good. He checked his rifle. Lava ran up the side passage. We have 2 corridors to clear. Team Beta blocks the southern ring. They need help? Split us up? Daniel asked. We move fast, Lavra said. You and Maria go north. Leo, Eric, and I will go south, Daniel agreed. They parted. Daniel and Maria turned right. The northern corridor led to weapons control. Guards were there, trying to access a console. Daniel let Maria fire the spike. The guards' guns clicked off. He and Maria rushed in. Daniel fired 2 shots. Both guards fell. Maria opened the console. It's jammed. I need 1 minute. Daniel covered the door. Bullets thudded as more guards came. He fired steadily. Lavra and Eric joined, clearing the hallway. Maria sighed. Done. She closed the panel. Weapon turrets offline? Daniel clapped her shoulder. Let's move. They raced back to the hub. Leo and Eric greeted them. South is clear, Leo said. No more guards? Good, Daniel said. All rings secured. They regrouped. Daniel took charge. Next, we storm the brig and free the prisoners. They will help as guards. They moved to level D3 where the brig lay. The corridor was tight. Blue lights glowed. Guards stood near the cell doors. Daniel raised his fist. On 3, 1. Maria whispered. 2. Leo added. 3. Daniel shouted. They burst. Forward. Maria fired the spike. Cell locks clicked. Prisoners stumbled out. Weak but determined, they grabbed weapons. Daniel and his team covered their retreat. A guard fired. A bullet zinged past Daniel's ear. He spun and fired back. The guard fell. Prisoners joined the fight. Daniel watched, hope in their eyes. They fought with fierce desperation. The last guard surrendered. Daniel cuffed him. He patted the man's shoulder. Welcome to the fight. The brig was empty. Hull screens showed prisoners' names and charges. Daniel felt pride but also sorrow. Maria tapped his arm. We have the numbers. Daniel nodded. Then we go to the hangar. We seize the ships. We end this. They rushed through corridors, past broken consoles and smoking vents. They reached the hangar bay. 7 fighters and 2 transports stood ready. Get them online, Daniel ordered. Eric, help with the transports. Leo, get fighters armed. Lavra, you and I will take command. They worked fast. Guards tried to stop them. Daniel led the charge, pushing through with rifle and courage. Maria restarted the transport shields. Lavra and Eric guided the prisoners into the ships. They strapped them into seats. Daniel climbed into the lead fighter. He gave a salute to his team. For freedom, the hangar doors opened. Stars shone bright. Rebel ships sailed into the void. Daniel felt the engine rumble beneath him. He gripped the controls. Pilot, set course for home. The fighter leapt into space. The station fell behind, powerless and silent. Daniel looked at Maria in the cockpit. Beside him, she smiled. We did it, she said. Daniel nodded. Yes, the Empire's hold is broken. He looked at the assembled ships. Rebel fighters, transports full of warriors, a small fleet of hope. He felt memory of Earth's blue sky. He felt the promise of freedom daub as they jumped toward Keter Prime. Daniel knew the war was not over. But now the first human soldier carried the courage of many, and that would change the galaxy forever. Rebel ships arced through space above Keter Prime. Daniel Brooks stood in the command cockpit of his fighter. The planet's surface was alive with flashing lights, both hopeful and wary. Below, cities and mining camps rallied against the empires. Garrisons. Daniel felt pride but also worry. "All units report," he said calmly. On the comlink, voices answered. LaVara Bennett from the south, Eric Johnson from the north, Leo Grant from orbit, and Maria Torres aboard a transport full of freed prisoners. "Weapons are down," Lavra said. "Garrisons are surrendering. Supply lines cut," Eric added. "Miners are armed and ready." "Orbital defense is offline," Leo said. "We have clear lanes." "Prisoners secured," Maria said softly, her voice full of relief. "They fight with us now." Daniel took a steady breath. "Then we strike at the Tyrant's palace. We end this." His fighter banked toward the capital. The palace was built atop a plateau, its towers tall and dark. Rebel fighters and transports formed a protective ring. Daniel led the strike group, lock. "Onto the central spire," he said. "Focus fire on engines and defenses." The fighters dove. They weaved between turrets that no longer targeted them. Missile trails lit the sky as they struck the palace walls. Daniel aimed at the main engine pylons. He fired. Explosions rocked the spire. Metal shards rained down. The palace's shields flickered. A squadron of loyalist fighters appeared. Red markings on their wings. They dove toward the rebels. Daniel's heart raced. He flipped his fighter and fired. 2 ships exploded, then another. His shots were precise. "We have incoming fighters." Laura's voice warned. Daniel toggled thrusters. He rolled and twisted, avoiding blasts. Maria's transport swooped above, firing ionic pulses that disabled enemy engines. Rebel prisoners in gun turrets fired with fierce determination. Eric and Leo joined Daniel. Together they formed a wedge and pushed back the loyalists. Soon the last enemy fighter spiraled into the clouds. "All clear," Leo said. Daniel exhaled. He looked down. The plateau was scarred by bombing runs and landed troops. Rebel soldiers advanced in lines. Miners and freed prisoners marched behind. The plateau, a lone figure stood on the highest tower. The Galactic Tyrant, his armor black and red, a heavy crown on his head. He raised a hand, calling down energy beams. Daniel's blood ran cold. "The Tyrant's power was great. He awaits us," Daniel said. Despite the fear, Daniel felt resolve. He thought of Maria's trust and the rebels' hope. He switched to his personal frequency. "Maria, launch the ground squad," he said. "Understood." She replied. Rebel transports touched down near the plateau base. Fighters circled above, blocking beams. Daniel flew low, strafing guard towers. He hit generators, cutting off energy lanes. On the ground, rebels charged. Daniel landed his fighter beside a group of miners. He climbed out, rifle in hand. He ran toward the spire's main gate. Maria and Leo flanked him, clearing guards. Each rebel fired with fierce purpose. The Tyrant's soldiers fought back, but they were disorganized. Daniel reached the gate. The Tyrant stood beyond, holding a staff crackling with energy. He spoke, his voice echoing. "You humans are brave, but you are weak," he snarled. Daniel aimed his rifle. The Tyrant waved his staff. A blast of energy hurled Daniel backward. He hit the ground hard. He gritted his teeth and rose. Maria fired. A charge pack at a support beam. The beam shattered. Rocks fell and blocked the Tyrant's path. Leo and Eric tackled the startled guards. Daniel pointed his rifle at the spire entrance. He took a steady breath. He charged. Energy crackled from the staff. Daniel dodged a blast, sprinting across jagged rock. He fired his last rounds at the Tyrant's feet, causing sparks. The Tyrant advanced. His armor glowed. Daniel dropped his rifle and drew a blade from his belt, a human design, simple but strong. He rushed forward. The Tyrant swung his staff. Daniel parried with the blade. Metal clanged. Sparks flew. Daniel felt pain as energy hit his shoulder. He staggered. The tyrant raised his staff for a final blow. Maria fired her rifle, distracting him. The staff's energy arc shifted. Daniel lunged. He drove his blade into the tyrant's side. The tyrant screamed, dropping the staff. Daniel twisted the blade. The tyrant fell to one knee. All around him, rebels and soldiers watched. The tyrant's armor sparked and dimmed. He collapsed. Daniel stood, blade in hand. The sky was silent. Then cheers rose from the gathered crowd. Maria ran to his side. "You did it," she said, tears in her eyes. Daniel knelt beside the fallen tyrant. He removed his blade and watched the life fade from the tyrant's eyes. He felt no joy. Only relief. "The Empire ends here," Daniel said softly. He climbed to his feet. Rebels swarmed the spire. They raised banners of all human worlds and colonies. The sky shone with fire and hope. Daniel looked at Maria and the rebel leaders. Each face glowed with victory. "Now begins the age of freedom," Daniel said. Maria took his hand. "And you led the way?" Daniel looked at the horizon. The sun rose over Keter Prime. Its golden light cut through the smoke. He saw smiling children, grateful miners, and proud fighters. He took a deep breath. He had stood against the Galactic Tyrant. He had led many in battle. And he saw a future where humans and allies worked together. Daniel Brooks, a single human soldier, had changed a galaxy. And this was only the beginning.